Welcome to Justice Insight Cam. We showcase raw bodycam recordings of actual law enforcement stops. Beyond the dramatic footage, we carefully interpret the law, the factual reality, and the profound lessons hidden in plain sight. Let's focus on the pursuit of justice.
চুরি করস না মার্ডার করস
তুই ডাকাত নি
টান দেন হাই টাকাই টান দেন গাছ ফলাই দিছি হাই
The first thing you hear isn't a scream, it's a turn signal. A soft, steady clicking in the dark, like the car is still trying to behave, still trying to follow rules, even when the world outside the windshield has stopped obeying any. And then the headlights sweep across something pale on the road. Not an animal, not a fallen branch, a shape, a human shape. And the dashcam catches the exact moment the driver's posture changes. Hands tightening on the wheel, shoulders lifting, breath pulling sharp like he just ran into cold water. Because up ahead, on a forest road at midnight, there are men standing in the lane. Not lost hikers, not a breakdown, men with guns and machetes that flash once when the headlights hit them. The camera keeps rolling. It keeps recording the little things, the vibration of the engine, the high whine of tires over rough gravel, the way the beam of light turns the trees into a wall, and in the end, it records what it always records. Not the whole truth, but enough. Enough to ask the only question that matters. What exactly happened on that road? And why did nobody come in time? Tonight, we're going to walk through the final drive, minute by minute, using the dashcam footage, the call logs, the search timeline, and the quiet details people missed in the first rush of fear. Because this story isn't just about a man and a road. It's about the way danger can be ordinary until the second it isn't. And it's about the difference between thinking you're alone and realizing you've been chosen. His name was Daniel Mercer, 36 years old, a quiet guy, fun by most accounts, one of those people who blends in so well that even his friends struggle to describe him beyond good dude and kept to himself. He lived in a small town where the forest starts right after the last gas station, where cell service drops the moment you pass the county line, and where everyone knows which roads you don't take after dark. Daniel drove for work, not long-haul trucking, not delivery. He was a site supervisor for a regional timber contractor, part paperwork, part boots on the ground, the kind of job where you spend your day balancing schedules, safety, and the stubborn realities of terrain. People said he was careful. He wore reflective gear even when he didn't have to. He double-checked maps. He kept a dashcam running, always, partly for insurance. Partly because the roads out there have a way of turning a small mistake into a fatal one. And that dashcam, mounted high, aimed through the windshield, became the only witness that never looked away. On the night this happened, Daniel had finished late. There'd been a machine issue on a job site, then a paperwork problem, then the kind of small delays that stack up until the sun is gone and you're staring at night like it's a deadline. He texted his sister earlier that evening. Nothing dramatic, just, running late, headed home soon. Then another message, around 11:19. Taking the forest road, faster. That road had a name locals used like a warning, Old Pine Cut, a narrow gravel stretch that snakes through dense timber for miles, crossing creeks and dips where fog settles like wet cloth. It saves time. But it costs you something, lighting, visibility, and any illusion that help is close. If you've ever driven a road like that, you know the feeling. Your headlights become your world. Everything outside them is possibility. Deer, fallen trees, a washout, or someone waiting. Daniel knew the risks, but he also knew his bed was 30 minutes closer if he took that shortcut. And like most people, he thought danger was something that happened to somebody else, until it was in his lane. Before we go further, I want you to drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. What state, what country, what city? Because stories like this are never just a story. They're a reminder of how different the night feels depending on where you live. And while you're down there, answer this. If you saw men standing in your lane on a forest road at midnight, would you stop or would you floor it? If you're here for these real-time, minute-by-minute breakdowns where evidence, timing, and human choices collide, hit like and subscribe. Let's get back to the drive. The dashcam footage begins like any other. A steady tunnel of headlights, the pale blur of gravel, tree trunks flickering by like bars on a cage. You can hear the cabin fan, low, constant, a faint rattle in the dashboard, a radio station that fades in and out as the road climbs. And then, around 12 minutes in, something changes. The car crests a small rise, and the beam of light spills into a wider stretch, not wide enough for comfort, but wide enough for someone to stand where they can be seen. At first, and it looks like a broken down vehicle, there's a dark shape on the shoulder, no hazards, no reflective triangle, just darkness. Then a figure steps into the beam, slow, deliberate. The dashcam captures the silhouette first, shoulders, a hood, an arm lifting, not waving, not signaling, raising something. Daniel's brake lights flare. You can hear it, his foot slamming down, the tires crunching as the car decelerates. For half a second, it's the normal instinct. Stop, assess. But then the headlights hit the metal. A gun, held low but unmistakable. And behind the first man, two more shapes move out of the trees. One carries something long and reflective, a machete. Another carries a shorter blade. The fourth is harder to see at first, because he's closer to the shoulder. Near the dark shape that now looks less like a vehicle and more like a barrier. A log dragged into place, a deliberate block. This wasn't a random encounter, this was a setup. Daniel's hands jerk the wheel, trying to angle around. The dashcam catches the quick swerve, gravel sprays, the engine revs, and then a voice, Daniel's, tight and stunned. "Whoa! No, no! What the—" He doesn't finish the sentence, because the men move. They don't charge like in movies, they spread. One steps toward the driver's side, one toward the passenger side. The machete carrier stays just out of the headlight's brightest center, like he understands how silhouettes work. And Daniel, suddenly, is making the calculation every human makes in a moment like this. Stop and hope, or run and risk. The dashcam captures his choice. The car lunges forward, not full speed, because the road is gravel and the barrier is close, but enough to force space. One of the men jumps back, a shape flashes at the edge of the frame, and you hear a sound that is not fireworks, a sharp crack, a gunshot. The camera shakes, the car swerves. Daniel doesn't scream. That's another thing people notice when they watch the footage later. He doesn't have time, he's focused, breathing hard. The car scrapes past the barrier, tires spitting stones, and in the rear-view reflection, you can see headlights catching movement. Men running after the car like they expected him to stop, like they built the roadblock for compliance, and Daniel refused to comply. At this point in the footage, the question shifts. It's no longer, what do they want? It becomes, how far will they go? Because Daniel is now a moving target, and the forest road is the worst possible place to become one. The dashcam keeps recording. The road narrows, trees crowd close, the car hits washboard ridges, and the camera judders like it's struggling to stay honest. Daniel's voice is clipped. Okay, okay, okay. Like he's trying to talk his nervous system into cooperation. He reaches for his phone. You can hear the tap, screen, then frantic swipes. His breath is loud in the cabin. He says, "Call, call," and then the most cruel detail, no signal. The phone pings and fails. He tries again, fails, again. fails. Every attempt eats seconds, and seconds are distance. Distance is survival. Daniel throws the phone onto the passenger seat. He says something that sounds like disbelief more than fear. "They're out here! They're out here!" Behind him, another set of headlights appears. At first, faint, then clearer, then aggressive. A vehicle, following, fast. The dashcam doesn't catch the license plate. It barely catches the make, but it catches the intent. Because the pursuing headlights don't hang back. They close, and when they close, you see the beam angle, like the driver is trying to blind Daniel through his mirrors. This is where the footage becomes harder to watch. Not because it's graphic, because it's relentless. A man alone in a car, a dark road, and the realization that the group didn't just stand in the lane. They had a second vehicle waiting, a plan, a net. Daniel accelerates. The speedometer reflection is faint, but later investigators estimate he pushed well above what that road safely allows. And you can hear it. The engine straining, the tires losing and regaining traction, the gravel popping up into the undercarriage. Every bump makes the car dance. Every curve is a gamble. Daniel says, "If I can hit County 18, I'm good." That line becomes important later because County 18 is where service returns, where houses start to appear, where the forest begins to loosen its grip. He was trying to reach the edge of isolation, trying to reach witnesses, lights, people, the basic safety of being seen. The pursuing vehicle stays close, and then another crack, not as loud as the first, but distinct, a gunshot again. You can hear Daniel flinch, the wheel jerks, the car fishtails for a half second, and Daniel says, "No, no, no, no," not pleading, calculating, like he understands that if he spins out here, like it's over. The dashcam captures a moment of pure human instinct. Daniel looks for options, a side road, a turnout, a gate, anything. But the forest doesn't offer options, it offers one direction. Forward. What happened next became the dividing line between rumor and evidence. Because when people in town heard a man had vanished on Old Pine Cut, everyone had a theory. Some said it was a robbery. Some said it was a personal hit. Some said it was random violence. People playing predator in the dark. But the dashcam footage narrowed the field. This wasn't random. A random encounter doesn't come with a roadblock and a chase car. This had planning, and planning means motive. Investigators later worked through Daniel's life like you'd sift ash for something solid. Who did he argue with? Who did he fire? Who did he report? Was there money involved? Drugs? Land? A feud? But Daniel wasn't the kind of guy who made enemies in obvious ways. He didn't flex. He didn't show off. He didn't post his location. He was boring, and boring is usually safe, unless someone else decides you're in their way. And that's the part that keeps people up at night. Because if Daniel didn't do anything to invite it, then the only explanation left is that what happened wasn't about his personality. It was about his proximity, where he drove, what he saw, what he might have known, or simply what he had. A car, tools, a wallet, and one thing criminals love in remote places: time. Time to control the scene. Time to act without witnesses. Time to disappear. Back inside the footage, Daniel reaches a curve where the road dips and bends toward a creek crossing. The camera catches the faint shine of water on rocks, a small bridge, just wide enough for one car, guardrails low, wooden posts. Daniel slows slightly. He has to. The pursuing headlights close the gap. You can hear Daniel's breath change. He knows this bridge is a choke point, and choke points are where pursuers force mistakes. The following car surges. Its headlights flood the cabin. Daniel's dashcam catches the sudden flare of light as the rear window becomes a blinding mirror. Then a hard bump, not enough to spin him, but enough to send a message. "We can touch you." Daniel's voice rises, sharp now. "Are you kidding me?" He jerks the wheel to keep straight. The car rattles across the bridge, and the moment he hits gravel again, Idai floors it. The engine roars. The dashcam shakes so hard that the trees blur. For 10 seconds, it looks like he might make it, like he might break their rhythm. But then the road splits, an unmarked fork. One side continues toward County 18. The other cuts deeper, an old service road that snakes through a thicker section. Daniel hesitates, just a fraction, a human hesitation. He says, "No, which one?" And in that fraction, the pursuing car surges again. A second bump, harder. The dashcam lurches. Daniel's car veers. Gravel skitters like marbles. And Daniel chooses. He takes the road that feels right. The one he thinks leads out. The one he believes he knows. The one that later, on the map, looks like a trap. Because the deeper road doesn't lead to County 18. It loops. It dead ends at a locked gate near an old quarry, a place locals avoid because it's quiet in a way that doesn't feel natural. And Daniel, in the dark, didn't see that future. He only saw a fork and headlights and the next 10 yards of road. This is where people argue. Some say he should have stopped. Some say he should have turned around. Some say he should have rammed the pursuer. But the truth is simpler. In a moment like that, you don't make perfect decisions. You make survivable ones. And survivable choices are shaped by fear. Fear narrows your world to immediate options. And Daniel's immediate option was forward. The dashcam records the next stretch, like a fever dream. The road tightens. The trees lean in. The headlights catch dust hanging in the air like smoke. The pursuing car keeps pace. Then, another sound. Not a gunshot. A sudden metallic clatter, like something hit the undercarriage. Daniel says, "What was that?" He doesn't have time to check. The car begins to pull slightly. A subtle drag, not a full failure. But enough. Enough that the distance between him and the pursuer stops growing. That clatter becomes a key detesulator. Because when investigators found Daniel's vehicle days after, they documented damage consistent with a puncture. Something sharp thrown, placed, or hit on the road. A spike, a shard, a trap. And once you accept that possibility, the chase looks even darker. Because it suggests the attackers weren't just reacting, they were anticipating, they were controlling. And Daniel's speed, his effort, his raw will to survive, was being guided, not towards safety, towards somewhere else. At about the 23-minute mark in the footage, Daniel does something people don't notice on the first watch. He starts talking differently, not to the phone, not to anyone, to the dashcam. He says, "If someone finds this, if you find this, please tell my sister I tried. Tell her I didn't stop." That sentence lands like a weight, because it means he understood, in real time, that the odds were shifting. It means his brain, even in panic, started preparing for aftermath, for explanation, for legacy. He keeps driving. The road opens briefly into a clearing where an old quarry pit begins. Dark, wide, and unnaturally open compared to the forest's tight walls. A gate appears ahead. Chain link, locked, reflective warning signs. No trespassing. Daniel's headlights hit it like a brick wall. He swears once, short, raw. Then the car slows, not because he wants to, because the road ends. Behind him, the pursuing headlights stop. The engine sound changes, lower, controlled. And then, in the dashcam's view, figures step out. More than before, at least 4, maybe 5. They move in the open now because they don't need shadows. The gate has done the work. Daniel reverses, hard. The camera shakes, but the pursuer's car blocks the path, a deliberate angle, a blockade. Daniel's breathing becomes loud again. You can hear him searching for options that aren't there. He says, "Okay, okay, okay." The same words as earlier, but now they sound different. Not a pep talk, a countdown, a man buying seconds. One of the men approaches the driver's side. You don't see his face. The headlights turn him into a silhouette. but you see what he's holding. A rifle low against his chest. Another man holds the machete. It hangs at his side like an accessory, a threat made casual. Daniel speaks through the closed window. His voice is strained but clear. "Take the car. Take it. I'm not. Just take it." A classic survival move. Offer property. De-escalate. Give them what they want. But the man outside doesn't respond like a robber. He responds like someone who wants control. He points the weapon at the window, and the dashcam records a sentence that chills people more than any gunshot. "You saw something you weren't supposed to see." Daniel freezes. You can hear it in his breath, because that line doesn't belong to a random stick-up. That line belongs to motive. It implies a story Daniel isn't even aware he's part of. He says, "I don't know what you're talking about." The man leans closer. The dashcam picks up his voice now, muffled through glass, but present. "Don't lie." Daniel's hands lift in the frame, open palms. He says, "I swear, please, I don't know." There's a pause, not dramatic, practical, like the men are deciding what kind of problem he is. And then the audio catches a small sound, a click, a door handle, someone trying the passenger side, locked. They rattle it again. Daniel flinches. He looks toward the passenger side, and in that split second, the driver's side window shatters. Not in slow motion, not cinematic, just sudden violence, glass exploding inward. The dashcam image fractures with the impact. Daniel yells, brief, involuntary, then coughing, then a scramble, hands moving, a seatbelt tug. His body trying to decide whether to fight, flee, or fold. The footage becomes chaotic. The camera shakes. You see shapes, arms, a muzzle. The machete flashes once near the edge of the frame. And then Daniel does the one thing you can still do when you're cornered. He tries to drive anyway. The car lurches, it slams into the blockade. Metal crunches. The dashcam tilts. The frame catches the sky, black, empty, then trees again. The engine revs, then stutters. And then, the sound changes. The car isn't moving. The engine is running but trapped. Daniel's breathing is heavy. You hear voices outside. Not fully clear, but you hear enough to understand that they're close, that they're coordinating. And then the dashcam captures its last stable image. A gloved hand reaching toward the windshield. Fingers spread, a palm covering the lens. And the screen goes dark. The audio continues for a few seconds after. A scuffle, a shout, Daniel's voice, broken, distant. Then a single, final sound. A heavy thud, and silence. When Daniel didn't arrive home, his sister tried calling. It went to voicemail, then to nothing. She texted, no response. At 1:42 a.m., she contacted a friend. At 2:18 a.m., she called the county line. And here is where the story becomes bigger than a road, because what happens after the dashcam goes dark is shaped by the same thing that shaped Daniel's choices. Distance. The sheriff's office logged the call as a welfare check. They asked questions. What was he driving? Where was he last seen? Did he have a history of disappearing? And the answer, every time, was no. Daniel wasn't that guy. He was consistent, or predictable. The kind of person who calls when he's going to be late. But the deputies on duty had limited resources. Night shift, large county, and a forest road that can swallow a car without leaving a trace. They told her they'd send someone when they could. To his sister, those words felt like a betrayal. To the dispatcher, they were logistics. But logistics, when you're bleeding time, can become deadly. The first unit didn't head out toward Old Pine Cut until after sunrise. Not because nobody cared, because rural reality is brutal. In the dark, searching that road is almost as dangerous as driving it. And yet, that doesn't make the delay feel any less unbearable. When deputies finally reached the stretch where Daniel's phone last pinged, barely a ping, more a ghost of connection, They found nothing. No skid marks, no debris, just gravel and trees. It wasn't until a volunteer search crew, walking deeper off the main track, noticed something small, a piece of plastic, then another, then a scatter of glass that didn't match the road. Windshield safety glass. They followed the trail like breadcrumbs, and 200 yards off the main road, down a rough embankment, they found Daniel's car, not burned, not blown apart, just wrong. Front end dented, driver's side window gone, tire damaged, the cabin disturbed, like the inside of someone's life had been turned inside out. The dashcam was still there, but the SD card was missing, except it wasn't, because Daniel, in a moment of habit that ended up saving the truth, had set his camera to upload short clips to a cloud folder whenever it found a faint signal. Not a full upload, not a live stream, but enough fragments, enough data bursts. It had pushed parts of the footage before the signal died, and those fragments, those minutes, became the spine of the investigation. That's how the public eventually learned what happened. Not through rumor, not through speculation, through a camera that refused to forget. The investigation moved like all investigations do at first, slow, methodical, frustrating. They treated it as a missing person with suspicious circumstances. They interviewed co-workers. They reviewed his phone records. They checked his finances. They pulled nearby traffic cams, most of which didn't cover that road. They talked to locals, and locals talked back with the kind of half-truths people give when they're afraid. I heard something. I saw headlights. People have been weird out there. Then someone said what everyone was thinking. There's stuff in those woods. Illegal dumping, poaching, drug operations, stolen equipment. When you have miles of cover, people build secret lives. And if Daniel drove into the wrong part of someone's secret life, then the sentence from the dashcam makes a terrifying kind of sense. You saw something you weren't supposed to see. Detectives focused on two angles. First, the roadblock, because roadblocks aren't spontaneous. They require effort, they require tools, and people who feel confident enough to stand in a lane with weapons. Second, the chase vehicle, because that's mobility, that's planning, that's someone who thought about what Daniel would do. They canvassed repair shops, and they looked for a vehicle with front-end damage. They asked for tips, and slowly, the map of the forest shifted from unsearchable to patterned. A clearing where tire tracks appeared frequently, a service road that showed signs of recent use, a locked gate with fresh chain marks. Then an anonymous call came in, a whisper of information, a name, not a full confession, just enough to point investigators toward a crew of men known for running night operations in the woods. And here, the story becomes what it always becomes, a collision between fear and evidence. Because the public wants certainty, they want villains with names, they want handcuffs, but investigations have to prove what they claim, and proving what happened in the dark is difficult when the dark is full of places to hide. Still, the dashcam gave them something priceless, a timeline, a location window, a sense of method, and the most important thing in any violent case, a starting point. I want to ask you another question here. If you lived in a town where the forest road was known for strange things, and someone went missing, would you report what you knew? Or would you stay quiet because it was safer? Be honest in the comments, because silence isn't neutral. In places like this, silence is part of the landscape. Days passed, then weeks. Search teams found pieces, a torn strip of fabric, a boot print near a creek, a smear of mud that suggested someone dragged weight. But no Daniel, no clean ending. And the sister, watching the case become a headline, did what people do when the world feels helpless. She turned the footage into a plea, not sensational, not exploitative, a simple request. If you recognize the road, if you recognize the voice, if you know who drives that kind of vehicle, say something, because the men in the dark weren't just trying to steal, They were trying to erase, and erasure only works when nobody pushes back. The pressure mattered. Eventually, investigators obtained a warrant for a property near the quarry. Land owned under a shell name, fenced, isolated. On paper, it looked like storage. In reality, it looked like a place meant to keep people away. They found fuel cans, tools, a pile of cut logs that matched the size and bark pattern described near the roadblock, and more importantly, items that suggested the land had been used as a staging area. Tire marks, fresh gravel, a spot where vehicles repeatedly turned. The kind of physical story the earth tells when people think nobody is watching. When asked about that night, the men associated with the property gave predictable answers. I was home. I don't know that road. Never seen him. But alibis crack under pressure when enough pieces align. A gas station camera catching a truck with mud on its bumper, a phone record that placed someone near the wrong tower at the wrong time, a purchase of chain links and locks a day before the incident. Not one smoking gun, a chorus of small facts. And in court, small facts become a path. Over time, the case took shape. Not as a random attack, as an ambush, a coordinated attempt to stop a man on a road where help couldn't reach him quickly. And even if every detail wasn't immediately proven in public, every second of motive spelled out, the core truth remained. Daniel's dashcam captured an organized act, men armed, a roadblock, a chase, a dead end, and voices that suggested he wasn't simply robbed, he was targeted. Years later, the people who lived near Old Pine Cut still talk about that night, not as a ghost story, as a warning. Some will tell you they don't drive that road anymore. Some will tell you they never did. And some will tell you the most haunting part isn't the men with weapons. It's the quiet. Because after the dashcam goes dark, the forest keeps doing what it always does. The wind moves, branches sway, animals cross the road. The world continues. And somewhere in that continuing, a family is stuck inside the last seconds of a recording. A turn signal, a breath, a voice asking to be remembered. Daniel's sister keeps one sentence from the footage written on a note in her kitchen. Not because it makes her feel better, because it makes her feel responsible. Tell her I tried. That's the thing about final moments. They don't just belong to the person who lived them. They transfer. They become a burden carried by the people left behind. And they become a test for everyone else. Do we treat it like entertainment? Or do we treat it like evidence of how quickly a normal night can become irreversible? Because the most important lesson here isn't a trick. It isn't a hack. It isn't some fantasy about always making the perfect move. It's the uncomfortable truth that isolation is a weapon. And the people who choose isolated places to do harm are counting on one thing: that no one can hear you, that no one can see you, that if the camera goes dark, the story ends. But Daniel's story didn't end with darkness. It left fragments, a timeline, a voice, and a trail that investigators followed because a family refused to let silence win. So I'll leave you with this. If you drive lonely roads at night, if you live near places where darkness feels too wide, what would you want the world to remember about you if everything changed in 1 minute? And what would you do right now to make sure someone else never has to ask that question from behind a windshield? Because out there, in the forests and back roads and long stretches between towns, the line between nothing happens here and something happened here is thinner than we want to admit. And sometimes, all that remains is the sound of a turn signal.
Thank you for watching today's analysis. If you found this information valuable, please like, share, and subscribe to Justice Insight Cam. Stay vigilant, stay secure, and join us for our next detailed report.